Jimmy.
Yeah, hello.
There he is.
You kind of disappeared there for a second. How are you guys?
Jimmy, how are you?
Doing well.
I'm good. Yeah.
All right, let's. So I got to ask you. So you on? I guess it's what's today? Today is so last Monday you tweeted out. I'm told Jalen Hurts, AJ Brown, and Saquon Barkley had a long positive conversation today. Lasted a couple hours. The game's over on Thursday night. AJ, I thought he was playing coy, not wanting to answer questions about it. So he said he doesn't recall the meeting. And then he tweets out on Friday that the meeting actually didn't happen like that. That they were talking in the parking lot. So. Is your understanding that this meeting did happen, or what do you think's going on in this situation?
So I think his objection to it was, essentially is the term meeting. Because I don't think it was that. The meeting implies these guys put something in their calendar, sat down at a specific time, and whatever. And that's not really how it went down. And, the way that I had phrased it when I put it out there was that it was a conversation that just lasted a couple hours. So I think he kind of objected to the idea that it was some kind of thing that, needed to happen, or that it was like the dreaded kind of quote unquote players only kind of meeting type thing. I also just don't think he wanted to talk about it. Like he didn't want that out there that they had this conversation. Saquon Barkley expressed that he didn't want this conversation to get out there. But it did, obviously. And, I don't know what Jalen Hurts' feelings on it are. He didn't seem to express that he was unhappy that it got out there. But, it was a conversation that lasted, like I said, a couple hours. And, I'd heard it initially, confirmed it with somebody else. And, they had kind of said, yeah, it's all good. Like they talked for a while, and they talked basically about the offense, and it was productive, positive kind of meeting, or conversation.
One of the things he said was that at least he felt like, and I remember him talking about this in 2023, he feels like he's the scapegoat, or he felt like he was the scapegoat. In other words, Saquon had to call this meeting to broker between Jalen and AJ and get them on the same page. Is that do you believe that's part of the problem that AJ had?
I don't know. I mean, that's probably just a better question for AJ, because I don't think he got asked that. I don't think he answered that part anyway. I just don't think he wanted to talk about it. I don't think he was happy that it got out, and I don't think he wanted to talk about it, certainly after a loss to a bad team that they've pretty much dominated over the years. I think he and Saquon in particular, we're not thrilled that the conversation got out there. I think that's really what his objection was after the game, when he, it was silly for him to deny that it happened because, Hurts and Barkley had already confirmed that it did. But, I just think he didn't want to talk about it is really all it was.
Wow. Jimmy, how did we get here? I mean, this team's coming off a Super Bowl championship, a parade. They start the season, beat the Chiefs, beat the Cowboys. At one point, they were 4-0. How did we get here? Everything should be good.
Yeah, I think that we even when they were 4-0, we could kind of see that they weren't playing the same way that they were playing, obviously, when they closed the season last year. To me, I think the biggest issue is in the trenches, where we have seen them dominate, certainly on the offensive side of the ball, for years. And then last year, at times, they dominated on the defensive side of the ball. Not always, but at times they dominated on the defensive side of the ball in the trenches. And we're not seeing that this year. So, obviously, they were a very elite run team last year. Mm-hmm. This year, heading into Sunday, they're 26th in rushing offense. They're 26th in rushing defense. Their rushing yard differential, meaning, rushing yards for versus rushing yards against. I don't have the exact number in front of me, but it's roughly 230 something. Minus 230 something through the first 6 games.
Wow,
which is unheard of for this team. They're actually 28th in the NFL in rushing yard differential. The only teams worse than them, off the top of my head, I believe, are the Bengals, who are awful, the Dolphins, who are awful, the Bears, and some other team. I wrote an article about it this morning, but that's the company that they're keeping right now, with the way that their run game on both sides of the ball are playing. So, they had that major advantage last year. They were the number 2 rushing offense. They were the number 10 rushing defense. Their run differential last year was over 1,700 yards in the positive. Wow. So they were out gaining teams on the ground by over 80 yards per game, which is kind of crazy that they were able to do that, first of all. And it's kind of crazy how quickly it has gone in the opposite direction. And what we saw throughout the season, last year and even at times in 2023 and certainly in 2022, was that they get a lead and they just choke teams out. Like, remember that Pittsburgh game last year where I think Pittsburgh had like 2 possessions in the second half and the Eagles had 3, and they held the ball for an insane amount of, like, their last drive of the game was, I think it was like 20 plays or something like that. Mm-hmm. And they just choked teams out when they got a lead with that rushing attack. And, they get positive yards first, second down. Occasionally you have to convert a short third down, get that, and just keep those drives going. This year, they're more likely to have a 3 and out, give the ball right back to the opponent, and keep giving them chances and chances and chances to claw their way back in. Almost got burned by it in Tampa. And then eventually they did get burned by it against Denver here at home. And then obviously they got their asses kicked, excuse my language, on Thursday night against the Giants. So I think that's kind of been the biggest theme for me this season, is that they just haven't been as good in the trenches as they have been, as we have kind of gotten accustomed to seeing them.
And if you look back to last year, the Eagles were at their best when Jalen was throwing the ball 25 times a game, around that, right? You had said they effectively run the ball. Jalen plays off the run. The offense went through Saquon Barkley last year, and not able to do that this year, it's become an issue. Everybody wants to, and to begin the season, Jimmy, a lot of people were saying 2023, even when they were 4-0, and I pushed back against that because they were coming off a Super Bowl, and it's like, listen, this team deserves the benefit of the doubt. After Thursday night, there's no benefit of the doubt. This looks like 2023. It really does. They're having trouble running the ball. The play caller seems to be struggling a little bit, and Jalen just is off. See, like right now for me, and I agree with you, the offensive line is a problem. The health is, the effectiveness of the offensive line is, but Jalen is struggling. If everything's not right with Jalen, it seems like that he's not the same player, and everything's not right now. There seems to be a chemistry issue, and they can't run the ball, and the offensive line's not protecting as much. Do you believe Jalen Hurts' play is poor right now for the Eagles?
No, I thought he played poorly Thursday night for sure. I mean, he had the deep ball that was wide open to Devontae that should have been an 89-yard touchdown, and he just missed it. He just missed the throw. And then, on the interception that he threw, as a lot of people have pointed out, Giants are in cover 0, meaning they don't have any safeties back. It's a heavy blitz. And a lot of people seem to think, and I agree, that the throw probably should have been to A.J. Brown out of the right slot. Instead he threw, an out route to Jahan Dotson that got jumped and taken back the other way. So, I thought that was, those are 2 major plays. If those 2 plays go in the Eagles' favor, maybe the outcome's different. But it wasn't. So, those are 2 plays that pretty easy opportunities, in my opinion, that he kind of let slip through his fingers. And, that'll happen from time to time. I just have to kind of go game by game, to have a better evaluation of what his season has been as a whole. But he goes through stretches as we've seen throughout his career where he's not super sharp, and then he goes through stretches where he is. And I think that's kind of the life of, most NFL quarterbacks that are any good at all. And, we'll see if he can get through it. But, certainly as we can see, the offensive line has been one of the best in the NFL for a very long time. I actually think their pass protection, has been pretty good. They haven't opened up many holes in the run game, but the pass protection's been, decent enough. And, certainly he's got those 2 receivers in Dallas Goedert to throw to, and the offense should look better than what it is. Lane Johnson kind of went out of his way to say that the offense is predictable, and I certainly agree. It's pretty easy to tell when it's either going to be run or pass, which is, you kind of have to battle for the defense, there's probably a lot of nuance to, how Jalen Hurts is playing so far this season, but certainly I agree that he had a bad game against the Giants on Thursday night.
What's the injury situation on the defensive side with Jalen Carter and Quinyon Mitchell at this point?
So Jalen Carter popped up kind of unexpectedly with his heel. We haven't been able to get back into the building since we found out about that, and we won't get into the building today either. First access will be tomorrow, I think. I got to look at the schedule, but not today. So I don't really have any update on on his stat. I mean, he did like come out onto the field, and it seemed like there might be some kind. He was listed as questionable, first of all, so they didn't roll him out before the game. And he did come out on the field, didn't really work out. And they had a discussion, and he wound up like not playing. He's got the mini bye to come back, so I think he'll probably play.
Okay.
Just reading the tea leaves, but I don't have any information on that. But I my sense is that he'll probably play. Week 7 in Minnesota. Who else did you ask about? Quinyon, don't know anything about him yet. So we'll find out about him, this week, whether he practices or not. Probably won't find out anything about him until Wednesday, if we haven't heard about it by now. So, yeah, I don't have anything for you there. Sorry. If I did, it would already be out there.
That's a big
I promise you that. I wouldn't be withholding information on that one. But I don't know anything about that. And then, Landon, we'll see. Jeff McLean had reported that he could be out a game or two. And, certainly they need him. The downgrade from him to Brett Toth is pretty significant, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And, the sooner that he can get back, I think at this point, the better. I think before, if they'd beaten the Giants, you might say, all right, Landon, take your time.
Right.
But I actually do think they need to get him back out there and get back in the win column.
All right, there he is, Jimmy Kempski. Anytime, Harry, I don't know if you see flossers from time to time that are thrown everywhere.
Yes.
When I pump gas, there always seems to be a flosser laying somewhere, and I think of Jimmy Kempski because he's the number one seed as far as identifying flossers that are thrown on the ground.
They're like the new cigarette butts, just laying around. People just take them. They floss their teeth, and for some reason, they just feel entitled to just lick them right on the ground wherever they are.
It's disgusting.
It really at least a cigarette butt you don't want to throw in a trash can because it could catch on fire.
Yeah,
right. The flosser, you're right, it is. You just flick.
Yeah.
There you go.
Any stick figures coming soon?
I mean, they're always lurking at any moment. But I haven't really done as much of that.
No, you're a professional reporter.
They're always still around.
I love that, though.
That's
all right, Jimmy. Thanks, bud.